Okay, let's unpack this truly paradoxical dynamic unfolding right now in the National Football League.
It really is.
We are diving deep into what has to be the most sensational coaching story of the offseason. The sudden availability and, well, the massive demand for Steve Spagnuolo.
Dags, yeah.
The mission today is to really get into the source material, the articles, the reports, to understand why the architect of the Chiefs' historic dynasty is only available for head coaching interview because that dynasty just imploded.
It's the ultimate irony, isn't it? And it's a fascinating career crossroads for a coach who has, quietly proven his brilliance time and time again.
Right.
We have a pretty clear mandate from the sources here. Scrutinize why Spagnuolo, with this, unparalleled Super Bowl legacy, is finally being courted again. And it's all fueled by the fallout from that catastrophic 6-11 season.
A season that just stunned Kansas City. And the timeline couldn't be more dramatic. January 5th, 2026, NFL insider Ian Rappaport drops the news.
Bomb.
Yep, the bomb. It instantly shifted the entire coaching landscape. The Tennessee Titans officially requested permission to interview Spags for their head coaching job.
And right after that.
Immediately.
Yeah.
All signals are pointing to the New York Giants being expected to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And this whole opportunity only exists because of the Chiefs' worst-case scenario.
That 6-game skid to end the year.
A 6-game skid, they missed the playoffs for the first time since 2014. No playoff run means he's accessible right now.
And that accessibility is the key. That's the whole leverage point. Think about the last few seasons.
Yeah.
Teams were asked, but the Chiefs were always deep in January, sometimes February. They had all the control. Now, the Chiefs organization has to just sit and wait.
They're helpless.
Totally. They're just hoping Spagnuolo chooses to stay rather than accepting one of these immediate high-profile offers he's finally getting. The stakes couldn't be higher, both for Spags' final shot at the top job and for the massive void he would leave behind.
Let's start with the elephant in the room then.
Yeah.
His resume. Because that's the foundation for all this demand. And it's why teams are willing to forgive, his previous head coaching struggles.
Absolutely.
When you look at his coordinator dominance, it's completely unique in the modern era. He is the only coordinator in NFL history to win Super Bowls with 2 different franchises. That stat is it's bulletproof.
It speaks to adaptability, right? To sustain excellence across different cultures and the ability to build an elite defense around whatever talent you hand him.
Mm-hmm.
The sources all highlight that it's not just the number of rings, it's the quality. You have the Giants' victory in Super Bowl 42, that massive upset over the undefeated Patriots.
It may be the greatest defensive game plan of the last 20 years.
It might be. Then you stack his 3 rings with the Chiefs. Filthy V, LVI, and LVI. That's 4 rings as a coordinator. It's a benchmark that just has no comparison.
But there's always that shadow, right? That first attempt.
Yeah.
His time with the St. Louis Rams from 2009 to 2011.
Yeah, the 1038 record.
He compiled a 1038 record, and then that brief interim role with the Giants in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy for analysts to just point to that 1038 stat and dismiss it.
Of course.
What did the sources say about the context around that failure? And what kind of personal impact did it have?
Well, the context is crucial. That Rams job was a massive teardown.
Right.
It was during an incredibly turbulent time with ownership and the front office. He inherited a team with, let's be honest, profound structural deficiencies. It was an organizational failure, not just a coaching failure. And when Spagnuolo says, "I'm a prideful guy," you can feel the weight of that experience. He's always kept his interest in another head coaching shot very private. But that failure clearly informs his approach now. He isn't rushing.
No, he's waiting for the right foundational fit, not just a title.
Exactly. He's spent over a decade since then proving he can handle high pressure, high stakes, complex schemes, proving that the Rams' tenure was an outlier. He has earned another shot.
I think that's a vital pivot point. Rings are the output, but what's the input? What's the core philosophy that lets him win in different cities with different players?
Yes.
Because this is where it gets interesting. Andy Reid hiring Spags in 2019 is now universally seen as one of Reid's all-time best moves. Why? Because Spagnuolo took a defense that was a total punchline in 2018
That was awful.
and immediately turned it into a consistent powerhouse.
That transformation speaks directly to the schematic genius teams are lining up for. He didn't just plug holes. He installed an identity.
Yeah.
And if you look at the evidence, even in this disastrous 6-11 season for the Chiefs, the defense was still competitive. The consistency in points allowed per game is staggering.
Let's run through them.
Second in 2023 at 17.3 points per game. Fourth in 2024 at 19.2. And even in this bad 2025 season, they finished 6th in the league at 19.3. The defense was the only reason they weren't, like 413.
That statistical consistency, especially when the offense was visibly dragging the team down, that speaks volumes. So let's go deep into the whiteboard here. We hear terms like blitz-heavy and unpredictable. But what are the specific tactical elements that elevate Spagnuolo from just a good coordinator to a chess master?
What's fascinating here is the lineage. You can see he draws a ton of influence from the late, great Jim Johnson, who ran those aggressive defenses for the Eagles.
Of course.
Spagnuolo's scheme is designed to create controlled chaos, to create pre-snap doubt for the other quarterback. He relies heavily on aggressive blitzes, a constant rotation of creative pressures. He's famous for expertly mixing in zero coverages.
Which is leaving your corners on an island, right?
Complete island. He mixes that with simulated pressures.
Okay, define simulated pressure for us, because that seems to be the nuance that makes the whole thing work so well.
Absolutely. So simulated pressure means he shows the quarterback full-out blitz, say 5 or 6 guys are crowding the line of scrimmage, but then at the snap, only 4 actually rush.
And the others drop back.
The 5th or 6th guy drops back into coverage. It totally confuses the quarterback's protection calls, forces them to hold the ball, or throw into a spot where a defender just suddenly appeared.
Wow.
He also uses these complex split safety looks that bait throws. He's manipulating the quarterback's eyes, making the defense look vulnerable over the top, only to have a safety crash down and force a turnover. The sources literally call him the best in the business at disguising cover 2 and cover 4 looks within that aggressive front.
So the QB never knows what he's seeing.
Never. Zone, man. 4 rushers, 6. He has no idea.
Okay, so if the scheme is so sound and the data shows they were still a top 10 defense in 2025, why did the Chiefs collapse so catastrophically?
That's the critical friction point.
Did the offense's struggles just finally catch up? Was the defense on the field too much?
That's a huge part of it. The sources suggest 2 main issues, and they're both linked to the offense. First, the offense had far fewer long drives, more turnovers, which just skyrocketed the defense's snap count.
They were gassed.
Totally gassed. And second, the defense thrives on speed and aggressiveness. When injuries started mounting late in the season, specifically to the linebackers and in the secondary, that aggressiveness became a vulnerability. When your depth is gone and you run a high-risk, high-reward, zero blitz scheme, well, opponents can finally exploit those one-on-one matchups, and that's exactly what happened in that 6-game skid.
But even in failure, the scheme produced stars.
Oh, absolutely. You see the success directly in the anchor players. I mean, Chris Jones keeps racking up double-digit sacks. Trent McDuffie has become a true shutdown corner. Nick Bolton. Their value is intrinsically linked to how Spags uses them.
No wonder teams want that identity. Okay, let's analyze the suitors. Spagnuolo isn't just taking the first phone call, right? He's being selective.
He has to be.
The Titans and the Giants present 2 very different but equally appealing high-comfort scenarios. Let's start with Tennessee. That connection is less about history and more about institutional trust.
This is deeply personal and professionally important. The Titans' new general manager, Mike Borganzi, was the former Kansas City assistant GM.
Right.
He worked side by side with Spagnuolo from the moment he arrived in 2019 all the way through 2024. That shared history, that deep 5-year familiarity, it just breeds trust at the highest level. Borganzi doesn't need to ask for references.
He knows the guy. He knows the system.
He knows his temperament, how he installs the system, how he handles egos and pressure, everything.
And that synergy between a head coach and a GM is where most new regimes fail. So if Borganzi is calling the shots on personnel, getting players who perfectly fit that blitz-heavy profile, it just dramatically increases the chance of success.
It does, and they offer a compelling canvas. The Titans have a ton of projected cap space, a high draft pick, and a young roster that just desperately needs an identity and some discipline.
So he could build his culture from the ground up.
From the ground up, with a GM who's already on his side. He avoids all the political stuff that doomed him in St. Louis.
That makes Nashville a really attractive option. But then you have the Giants angle. This has the undeniable weight of history and maybe destiny. This is Spagnuolo's old stomping grounds.
The emotional and professional tie to New York is palpable. He coordinated the defensive masterclass in Super Bowl 42. He went back there later from 2015 to 2017, which included that interim head coach job. And reports are strongly suggesting this is his ideal situation. Why? Because it mitigates the biggest risk factor for any defensive coach,
The quarterback.
The quarterback position.
Yeah.
The Giants already have a young franchise QB in place with Jackson Dart.
Okay, so let's ground this for the listener. This fictional Jackson Dart, why is he the key piece? What makes him the mitigating factor?
Well, Dart, he struggled with some red zone turnovers early in his rookie year, but he finished the 2025 season showing elite arm strength and really remarkable composure in the pocket.
Okay.
The sources say the Giants see him as a foundational piece who just needs an experienced coach to build a stabilizing culture around him.
So Spags wouldn't have to worry about the offense.
Exactly. He won't have the burden of rebuilding a defense and developing a QB. He gets to focus solely on the defense, on discipline, knowing the offense has this strong ascending pillar already in place.
A stable organization, a promising QB, strong ties to the community. It's almost a perfect alignment for a guy looking for that second chance.
It is. He's interviewing them as much as they're interviewing him.
He's setting the conditions for success, which he clearly didn't have the first time. So before we look at the immediate fallout for the Chiefs, let's put his tenure in KC into historical perspective. Where does he stack up against the legends?
It's a great question, and if you connect it to the bigger picture, Spags' era absolutely resurrects the traditional Chiefs defense identity that had kind of been dormant for a while.
You mean going back to the AFL days?
Yeah, you have to recall the ferociousness of the AFL days under Hank Stram leading up to Super Bowl IV. That team was anchored by guys like Buck Buchanan and Willie Lanier. That era was defined by aggressive, smart play.
That's the DNA of the franchise. Ferociousness.
Exactly. Then, of course, you get the 90s, which were all about the overwhelming presence of Derek Thomas.
A sack machine.
A relentless sack machine. 126.5 career takedowns. But the decades before, Spags were spotty. They lacked that consistent top-tier defensive identity. Spags brought it back. I mean, the dynasty peak under him had multiple top 5 defenses, including that phenomenal season where his unit had 57 sacks. That's the second most in franchise history. He didn't just win rings, he restored an institutional identity.
So Spags leaving wouldn't just be losing a coordinator, it's losing the defensive anchor of the whole Super Bowl era. Which brings us to the impending void. If he takes the Titans or Giants job, what does Andy Reid do?
It would be a painful void, and Andy Reid's first move would almost certainly be to promote from within.
For continuity.
To maintain some level of continuity in the scheme and the culture, the sources immediately point to 2 guys, Joe Cullen and Brendan Daly. Cullen is the D-line coach, and he gets credit for helping refine Chris Jones's role and generating all that interior pressure. Daly is the linebackers coach, and he has a deep understanding of the second-level schemes that are so foundational to the system.
So promoting one of them would keep the language the same, but what about the high-stakes game day leadership?
And that's the thing. It's still a huge step down in proven leadership. I mean, Cullen and Daly are highly respected positional coaches, but neither of them has 4 Super Bowl rings as a coordinator.
Right.
Replacing the sheer intellectual volume of Spagnuolo, the guy who can call the perfect 0 blitz on 3rd and 3 in the Super Bowl, is just incredibly tough. It puts a massive question mark on a defense that hasn't had one in years.
But the silver lining for Chiefs fans, the hope, is if he stays. If he rejects the offers, the implication is powerful, isn't it?
Oh, huge.
Continuity is maintained, and they likely bounce back strong in 2026, especially as Patrick Mahomes heals fully from whatever was going on this year.
That defense with a healthy offense immediately puts them right back in the Super Bowl discussion. That's the optimal scenario, but the choice is no longer Kansas City's to make.
He has the leverage now.
Spagnuolo's success has finally given him the leverage to choose his own destiny. He proved he can thrive in the shadows of the Mahomes-Reid dynasty. Now he has to prove he can step out into that high-glare spotlight.
So what does this all mean for us, for the listener? The essence of this deep dive is that Steve Spagnuolo's sudden availability is a direct paradoxical result of the Chiefs' shocking 2025 failure. Yet his track record of Super Bowl mastery makes him the single most sought-after coordinator in the NFL. He is a genius who flourished in the background.
And this raises the final provocative question that sort of defines his decision. We all know Arrowhead Stadium, named after Lamar Hunt, holds the world record for the loudest stadium ever, right? 142.2 decibels. Spagnuolo's job as a coordinator was essentially noise reduction, creating quiet, controlled chaos on the field. The job of a head coach, though, is managing the media volume, the public scrutiny, the entire organization. After that quiet failure in St. Louis, Is Steve Spagnuolo truly ready to step out of the shadows and handle the 142 decibel spotlight of the New York or Nashville media?
Wow.
That transition from quiet master to loud CEO, that is the biggest variable in his second act.